Peah, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Vav. I want to dedicate this learning to the memory of my father, Harav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Okay? Today we're going to learn about how much land, this Mishnah discusses, how much land must a person own? How big must your field be in order to be chayav in Peah? Okay? Says the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Karka Beit Rova chayevet bePeah. Okay? So you need it to be the size of a Beit Rova. So the guy that explains a Beit Rova is 10 1/5 amot, 10.2 amot by 10.2 amot, which is 104 approximately square amot. So he says approximately 36 square meters be'erech. As field with a small field. So that's the minimum size of a field. And the reason he learns it is because it says lo techale pe'at sarcha liktzor. Let's see it in the psukim. Okay, if we go back to the top, which we see all the time, the same psukim we've seen. Lo techale pe'at sarcha. Okay, liktzor sarcha. So he explains that the word sarcha also appears sarcha lo tizrak kilayim. You're not allowed to plant your sadeh, your field kilayim, from two different species, from wheat and from grapes together. So in their case, sadeh is a Beit Rova akav. So here also it's Beit Rova. It's 104 square. It's 104 square amot. Rabbi Yeshua says no. Ha'oseh sa'atayim. He says it's not based on the size of the field, but it's based on the yield of the field. Okay. So ta'atayim is 2 se'ah is 12 kav. Just so you know. Okay. A kav is about 2 liters. So 12 kav is about more than 2 liters, so 12 kav is more than 24 liters. So however much grain, however much land you need to do to make 24 liters of grain, and all of you know exactly how much that is, so I don't really need to go into that. Okay, Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Rabbi Tarfon says, Shisha al Shisha Tfachim. Rabbi Tarfon says it's much, much smaller than that, okay? 6 Tfachim by 6 Tfachim, because that, as we're going to learn much, much later on, that's the minimum size of a field in which you can plant 5 different small Tfachim worth, and we're going to see it's going to be like a checkerboard, 5 different species in the same small area, and it's still going to be. You can do it in such a way that it's not considered kalayim. How do you do that? Wait for Masechah Kalayim, and I'll explain it to you. Okay, so that's the smallest amount, and therefore he says that's the field. That's the minimum size of a field. It's chayav in Peah. Smaller than that, it wouldn't be chayav in Peah. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beteira Omer kedei liktzor v'lishnot. Okay, what they used to do is they used to, when they would cut the grain, and we're going to see, they would take it in their hand, and then they would cut it, okay? And then they would take it, that's what they do. They'd grab it in their hand, they would bunch it up, and then they would cut. Okay, so he says enough space to cut, bunch, cut, and then do it lishnot, bunch, cut again. Lishnot from the word lishanot, to repeat. Okay, that's how much size is that? Not a lot, very small. It says the Mishnah, v'halacha kidvarav. And the halacha is like him. And we're going to see that that's not true, but what can you do? Rabbi Akiva says no. Karka kol shehu chayevet bePeah. Kol shehu means even the smallest amount, right? It says pe'at sarcha. So remember we said whether the oraita requirement of how big his field had to be, how much Peah you had to leave. The answer is any amount. So says the Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva says any amount, fine. Any amount is the size of your field that you have to leave. So if you have one tree, my backyard is chayav in Peah. My mango tree is a Peah. My orange tree is chayav in Peah. They're not growing very much, but those are chayav in Peah according to Rabbi Akiva. And we actually, even though the Mishnah says halacha kidvarav, the halacha is like him, nonetheless we paskin like Rabbi Akiva. And now the Mishnah, once it says karka kol shehu, this idea of owning any amount of land is a very powerful and very important idea in halacha. So the Mishnah is going to continue and talk about a number of different examples where this is relevant. Okay, so the Mishnah says uba bikurim. The same is true. And a person is required to bring bikurim to the Beit HaMikdash. Here, the Torah says, Reshit bikurei admatcha tavi Beit Hashem Elokecha. The choicest first fruits. Reshit, this is bikurim. The bikurim of what it says, admatcha, of your land. So in order to be chayav in bikurim, it has to be admatcha. You have to have land. And for this reason, the Mishnah says, how much land do you have to have? This is what we said. Karka kol shehu. A person who doesn't have any karka, he's not chayav in Peah. Okay, but lichtov alea prosbo. What's a prosbo? So this is something that's related to the halachot of Shemitah. So the Torah says that at the end of the 7th year of Shemitah, all loans are forgiven. That means if I lend somebody $10,000 or 10,000 shekel or whatever, right? At the end of Shemitah, the loans are automatically forgiven. Shemitah is mishametet. There's only one problem. The Mishnah says, well, even the problem is that, let's say I know, for example, that this person that I have to lend this guy $10,000, and Shemitah's coming. It's 3/4 of the way into the 7th year. What are the odds that I'm going to lend him money? The answer is very low. Even though the Torah says, Hishamer lecha, the Torah warns specifically, Penya devarim levavcha b'liyah lemor. You should have a terrible thought in your heart saying, Karvash natasha, vashnata shemitah. The land, the shnata shava, the 7th year is coming. Vera eincha be'achicha yavyon v'lo titein lo. Because you don't want to give him money either. Sure, I'll lend you $10,000. Like, I'm never going to see it again. So the Torah says, don't do that. Naton titein lo. You should give him. So the Torah is very explicit about that. There's only one problem. The problem is, the Torah is very explicit, but people stop loaning money. So the Mishnah in Shvi'it says that Hillel Hazaken Tiken Prosbol. Prosbol is, it's a document. What it allows, it's a workaround. It's not a controversial thing, but it's sort of a template, meaning that a person who signs a prosbol transfers all of his loans to a Beit Din. So while an individual, Shemitah says mishamet, all the loans that are owed to an individual, loans that are owed to Beit Din are not considered mishametet. So therefore, you sign the prosbol and you say, I transfer all my loans over to the Beit Din, and the Beit Din will collect on my behalf. And that's a way of getting around, literally, really getting around the laws of Shemitah. And it's a legal loophole of getting around the laws of Shemitah. And that way, Hillel was able to find a way to get people to continue to loan on the year of leading up to Shemitah. Because otherwise, the poor people were essentially getting hurt. Now, the halacha is, though, that prosbol only works if the loveh, if the borrower has land. Why? Because a loan, and we're not talking about a loan of 10 shekel, we're talking about serious loans. Any serious loan was backed up by property. It had a lien on a property. So if a person had a lien on a property, therefore, the lien on the property, you could say as if, you could look at it, Hillel designed it so that you could look at it as if the property itself was already transferred over to the Beit Din. And then you want to buy it back, so therefore you would pay back the loan to the Beit Din. Okay, so therefore, the Mishnah says, Rabbi Akiva Omer, Karka kol shehu chayevet bepeah. Chayav, any amount, to write a prosbol, the loveh, the borrower, has to have a certain amount, any amount, a small amount of money. A small amount, of land. Finally, v'likmot ima nechasim she'en la machayot, v'kesef, u'v'shtar, u'v'chazaka. Okay? In order to understand this, you have to understand that there are a number of different ways of acquiring things, of making kinyanim. Okay? Let's go back to here. Okay? There's a number of different ways of making kinyanim. Before we get to this, before we get to nechasim and other kinds. Okay? Let's talk about kinyanim. Kinyanim. Okay? There's kinyan kesef, shtar, chazaka, but then there's all kinds of ways of making kinyanim. Let's say, for example, I give money, okay? And then there's one called mishicha. Mishicha means, literally, it's mine, I picked it up. Mishicha is mine, okay? Kesef means, here, I'm giving you the money, and when I give you the money, it becomes mine. Shtar is I write a contract and say, I'm giving my card to you, okay? Chazaka, I'm holding on to it, I'm grabbing onto it, I'm doing a thing of ownership. So the halacha is as follows. The halacha is that for nechasim she'en lehem achrayut, in order to understand these terms, I'll get to it in a second. Nechasim she'en lehem achrayut, the only way to make a kinyan on nechasim she'en lehem achrayut is meshicha. Okay? So if you look here, what are nechasim she'en lehem achrayut? There's in halachic terminology, there's two types of property. Basically, two types of property. There's metaltalin. Metaltalin is anything movable. A tire, a refrigerator, a ring, a cup, a book. Any of these things are called metaltalin. Anything movable is metaltalin. A boat, a car, an RV, an elephant. It doesn't matter what. That's metaltalin. And then there's karka. Karka is land. Anything attached to the ground is karka. This house, karka. Okay? Nechasim metaltalin are called in halacha nechasim she'en lehem achrayut. Okay? And the only way to make a kinyan on metaltalin is mishicha. If I pay for something, this is something that people don't really realize. If I go to the grocery store and I say, here, I'm paying you for the groceries, halachically, they're not mine until I pick them up. Meaning, if I paid for the groceries, or I went to the store, and I paid the owner the money, and I said I bought the computer, okay, and then lightning struck, boom, and the computer is destroyed, I say to him, well, it's not mine yet, give me my money back. I could say that. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, it's another issue. If I pick up the computer, even if I had paid for it, you pick it up, you dropped it, you lose it. It's yours, okay? That's Meshicha. But what if I want to own, if I want to do the kinyan of kesef or shtar or chazakah on metaltalin? I can't. There's no way to do it. Those kinyanim work for karka. I can buy something. I can buy land with kesef. I can buy it with a shtar. I can buy it with chazakah. I close the gate. I do a sense of ownership on it. Okay? It says the Mishnah the following. Mishnah says, if I want to do a kinyan of kesef, shtar, and chazakah on nechasim she'en la'am achrayut, I can do it in a kinyan called agav, together. Okay? Meaning, if I do a kinyan of kesef or a kinyan of shtar on my karka, on my land, I can say, by the way, and I also want the refrigerator in it, and I also want the computer in it. Okay? Therefore, even though I didn't do Meshicha on the computer or on the whatever, nonetheless, since I did a kinyan kesef on the land, the kinyan kesef works also for the tire that happened to be in the house at the time. Okay? That's exactly what the Mishnah says. If I want to be liknot ima with the karka, with my land, nechasim she'ena machayut bekesef b'shtar b'chazaka, with money, with shtar and chazaka. Okay? How much land do I have to have? This is the punchline Rabbi Kiva says. Karka kol shu. Any amount of land. So if I want to do kesef, shtar, and chazaka on metaltalin, on nechasim she'ena machrayut, I have to first do, I have to have any amount of land, and then based on that, so I can, if I don't want to do meshicha on your car, I can say, listen, I'll sell you, at least temporarily, the land the car is on, and then you could do kesef, and it belongs to me right away. That's a way around the problem of having to do meshicha on your car, or your elephant, or your boat, or your what have you. Okay, how much karka do you need? Kol shu. Any amount at all is sufficient. If you have any comments or questions, you can always contact me, artspalter@gmail.com. Have a great day.